What is a family investment company, and could it save your family millions? Imagine spending 30 years building a successful business. You took the risks, you employed the people, you worked the long hours, you made the difficult decisions that most people never see. Eventually you achieve what many entrepreneurs dream of. You sell your business for £10 million. Congratulations. You've joined a very small group of people who have successfully built and realised significant wealth. But here's something almost every entrepreneur discovers after the sale. The skills that created £10 million are not the skills that preserve it. For decades, you managed a company. Now, you're managing capital. And without the right structure, the wealth you spent a lifetime creating could gradually become less efficient, less organised, and ultimately far more exposed to inheritance tax than it needs to be. That's why an increasing number of successful business owners begin asking one important question: should I set up a family investment company? Today, I'm going to explain exactly what a family investment company is, how it works, why it's become such an important estate planning tool for wealthy families, and whether it could play a role in protecting your family's future. Why life changes after selling a business. Before the sale, life is surprisingly straightforward. Almost every financial decision revolves around one objective: growing the business. The company is your investment. The company creates your income. The company is your pension. The company is your legacy. Then one day, it's gone. Instead, you now have perhaps £8 million or £10 million sitting in cash after tax and expenses. For the first time in decades, you're asking completely different questions. How should this money be invested? How much income can I safely spend every year? Should I help my children now or later? How do I make sure future generations benefit? Could my estate eventually face a multi-million pound inheritance tax bill? These aren't investment questions, they're family questions. What is a family investment company? A family investment company, or a FIC for short, is a private limited company established specifically to own and manage family wealth. Instead of owning investments personally, the company owns them. Inside the company might sit a globally diversified investment portfolio, commercial property like the one I'm in now, cash reserves, private investments, investment bonds, other long-term assets. The family owns the company owns the investments. Think of it this way. You spent decades building one successful company. A family investment company simply becomes the company responsible for managing your family's financial future. How does it actually work? Technically, a family investment company is usually an ordinary UK private limited company. What makes it different is how the ownership is structured. Parents, i.e. you, will often subscribe for voting shares. That means they remain directors. They control investment decisions. They decide when dividends are paid. They decide how the company is managed. Children, grandchildren may instead receive different classes of shares. Those shares often have little or no voting rights, but they may participate in future growth. This separation of ownership and control is one of the reasons family investment companies have become so attractive. Parents continue making the important decisions. Future generations may benefit from future growth and those decisions. Control and economic ownership don't always have to be the same thing. Why have family investment companies become so popular? Family investment companies aren't some new tax loophole. In fact, they've existed for many, many years. Their popularity increased significantly following changes to trust taxation in 2006, where many professional advisors began considering alternative structures for long-term family wealth planning. Today, they're widely recognised by accountants, solicitors, and chartered financial planners as an established succession planning vehicle for wealthy families. Interestingly, in 2019, HMRC established a specialist team to review the increasing use of family investment companies. After examining how they were being used, HMRC concluded there was no evidence that families using FICs were more likely to be involved in tax avoidance or non-compliance than other taxpayers. The specialist team was subsequently disbanded. An important point, because it demonstrates that when established correctly for genuine family succession planning, family investment companies are regarded as entirely legitimate structures operating within UK company and tax law. Why entrepreneurs immediately understand them? This is the point where most business owners suddenly smile, because they realise that they've already spent 30 years understanding exactly how this works. Think about your business. It had directors, shareholders, company accounts, professional advisors, governance, regular board meetings, clear ownership, defined responsibilities. Now you've sold the trading company. A family investment company simply replaces the operating business with investment capital. Instead of selling products, it owns investment portfolios. Instead of generating trading profits, it generates investment returns. Instead of employing staff, it's quietly managing your family's financial future. For many entrepreneurs, it feels completely natural. They're simply applying the same business principles they've always trusted. The opportunity immediately after a business sale. One reason advisors often discuss FICs shortly after a business sale is because this creates a unique planning window. Your wealth has just been realised. Congratulations. Future investment growth hasn't yet occurred. Your family's objectives are changing. Major decisions haven't yet been made. This can be one of the most effective times to establish long-term governance, because once investment assets have grown substantially in your personal estate, restructuring them later may become considerably more complicated. Good planning is often about acting before future growth occurs, not afterwards. Could it save your family millions? Let's look at a simple example. Imagine you've invested £8 million following the sale of your business. Now, let's assume purely for illustration that that investment achieves an average annual return of, say, 6% after charges over 20 years. Investment returns are never guaranteed, of course. But at that rate, your portfolio could potentially grow to more than £25 million. Now ask yourself one question. Where has that additional £17 million of growth accumulated? Has it remained entirely inside your taxable estate? Or has careful succession planning allowed some of that future growth, or all of it, to benefit future generations instead? That's why advisors often say inheritance tax planning isn't really about today's wealth. It's about deciding where tomorrow's wealth will belong. It's about more than tax. One of the biggest misconceptions is that family investment companies exist purely to reduce inheritance tax. They don't. In reality, they're about governance. Research into wealthy families consistently shows that preserving wealth is rarely just about investment performance. It's about communication, education, shared values, decision-making, clear responsibilities. Who becomes a director? When should children become involved? Should capital be protected? Should income be distributed equally? How should future generations learn financial responsibility? A family investment company provides a formal framework for having those conversations while everyone is alive and able to participate. Because preserving wealth is rarely about finding the highest investment return. It's usually about preventing poor decisions. Where financial planning fits in. It's important to remember that a family investment company is not a solution on its own. It's one part of a much bigger financial plan. Before recommending any structures, we'd first want to understand what your wealth actually needs to achieve. At Longhurst, we'd normally begin with a detailed lifetime cash flow forecasting exercise. How much income do you need? How much can you safely spend? How much can you afford to gift? What happens if markets fall significantly? What happens if you live to 100 years old? Only once those answers are clear does it make sense to discuss structures like a family investment company, which we will do alongside our tax team. Because the structure should support your financial plan, not become the financial plan. The first generation creates wealth. The second preserves it. The third either benefits from the systems that you've put in place, or they spend years dealing with the consequences of not having them. A family investment company isn't simply about tax. It isn't simply about investing. And it certainly isn't about finding loopholes. It's about recognizing one important truth. If your business deserved governance, your family's wealth deserves governance too. You've already spent decades building financial capital. The next chapter is about building family capital. And that may become the most valuable business you'll ever create.